Week five is amongst us, Diggsy. We're talking digging for wisdom here. I'm the Wizard, that's Professor Diggs. Halfway mark. Diggs, I'm excited about this week because there's a couple matchups that are stellar, and we're going to get to them soon. There's one that's developing into one of the better rivalries in North Texas. And it's a small school deal, but they don't really like each other that much. And we're going to talk about it a little later. And it all comes from one game that happened like 2 years ago. But we'll talk about that later. Let's talk a little bit about last week first before we get too started into this. And I want to talk about some. Go ahead, Diggs. It looked like you
I was going to say I have to correct you because you're bad at math. We know about this. I have to triple check all your math. You said we're halfway through for some teams, but some teams we're a third of the way through because I think we can see some teams that are going 15, 16 weeks pretty early, and I think they're going to be early on your conversation. So we got teachers that watch this show, Ward. We can't be showing them that math. Yeah, it's halfway through for some teams, but only 33%. So come on, Ward.
You told me there wouldn't be any fractions in this, and all of a sudden,
but you're a producer. You understand seconds. You understand edits. You got to understand the statistics of all this.
If I could have just used the word regular season or the phrase regular season in there, I would have been more accurate. But they never accused me of being an accurate person. I'm always messing things up. Hey, I want to talk about the big thing of last week, and we're just going to start right off by showing it. The big play of last week came from Jaquan Snell of you-know-who, Waxahachie. Let's take a look at this.
Look at this.
Out of nowhere.
You can literally watch this play on loop. I've watched this play about 10 times, and I watch different elements of it every single time. And what he did there, I watched, the linebacker perspective. I watched the safety perspective. I watched the line blocking. I watch if the quarterback should have done something a little bit different there. And it just boils down to it being an excellent play by a team that needed it. And I think what's even crazier, and this is a very common thing when you think about it, they had it 3rd and 1 there. And they went deep because, like, hey, let's see if we get a chunk play. Didn't get it because they believed 4th and 1, we're Duncanville. Surely we're going to get a yard. We can get a yard there. They're almost in field goal range. I don't know what their kicker can do, but that was a 46-yard field goal. So that's not anything that's obscene. You've seen 40. We show 60-yarders, 60 and 64-yarders on this podcast all the time. So 43 for a high school player, it's a little stressful, but it's doable. But, man, Snell made a program-defining play for a program-defining win for Waxahachie. And I know some Waxahachie purists will talk about their 4A titles back in the day. I don't care about our 3A titles. I don't know if it was 3A when it was our current 4A or if it's 4A as our current 5A. But it's still, as this 6A Waxahachie Indian team, it's a program-defining win. And Snell made a play. You talk to your players. It's what Coach Tollison, I'm sure, talks about to his kids. Somebody's got to make a play in these big situations. They had a whole group of kids ready to make plays. Congratulations to the Indians for finally stepping up and going over that finish line.
Yeah, Dix, you mentioned this last week that there's going to be 22 players that are probably going to be playing on Saturday. And for the purists in 11-6A and across the state, people knew Jaquan Snell's name. He's just a junior. I hope he introduced himself to everybody else that's just a casual fan. This guy is a bad, and then 2 other initials. He's a bad man. He is a bad man, and he's.
We like to call it a mamma jamma. Bad mamma jamma.
Now shut your mouth. And he's a top 10 player, not only in the state but in the country, and you can see why. He was making massive hits throughout that thing. And Waxahachie may have just, they played DeSoto this week. They may be one win away from just about sealing a district title, or the way we do it's a district title. So yeah, you got to still play the games, but they play the 2 toughest teams, and if they can beat them both, what are we looking at here?
We talked about the same thing with South Lake Carroll. They played probably the top 2 teams in their district to get their district started, but no country for old men, Ward, because as amazing of a game and as a win as that is, and as I'm sure we're going to talk about it in detail, we'll talk about it in the warm-up. If you subscribe to all of our IHSS things, you can hear an in-depth preview with me and Neil about that game on Thursday, but that game could cancel everything out. Right. We go for all of a sudden, if they lose that game and then Duncanville can beat DeSoto, that could be, depending on the tiebreakers in 11-6A, that could flip it because you can get into point margins because a +1 is not going to go very well in a three-way point in a three-way point differential thing. So it could, it's important, and I'm sure Coach Tollison is preaching about it. This game, you can, and it's their homecoming. It is DeSoto's homecoming. You cannot have any sort of letdown, and you got to build upon that because as amazing of a win as it is, it could be completely forgotten by this time next week.
Exactly. Celebrate Friday. I'm positive Sunday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Coach Tollison's in there just racking his brain on how they're going to beat a DeSoto team that hadn't given up a point in a couple of weeks, and they have chips on both shoulders that they want to shake off them real quick. Let's go through some flowers here. I'm going to start with a flower. We usually do teams. I'm going to start with a flower for an individual player, and that's Miles Davis from Timberview. We talked about it Friday night recap. When you throw 3 picks in a huge district game, that can drown you. That can put you down for the count, and it did not put him down for the count. They were down 3 scores both times he was throwing picks. Drew them all the way back. They won by a point over Heritage. I'm giving him flowers because he didn't get down on himself. He like you said, short-term memory. He had a short-term memory within the game and came back out and made the plays needed because he threw 3 touchdowns as well to get that big 1-point district win.
Yeah, that was a big win, and the fact that down 20 in the fourth quarter and able to come back. So I heard he got dinged up at the end of the game, so hopefully he's going to be fine and it wasn't anything major. But, again, you can give flowers to him, but you can also give flowers to Timberview because that never give up style to have 2 defensive scores in the fourth quarter and then the final. And the kicker had never kicked a field goal before. It was like the backup kicker goes in there and hits a 26-yarder to win a game and a huge flip-flopping game because all of a sudden that's more of a home playoff game now because you're kind of saved in that 2 spot because you talked about it with Waxahachie. We talked about South Lake Carroll. Probably Timberview's 2 toughest games, 1-2 in district. So it's kind of that downhill slide from there. Games in this district, nothing is easy. Let's make that clear. Seguin, Burleson, there are some really good teams that even at the bottom half of the district, you don't know what the Colony, Grapevine, and Everman are going to do in any given week. And Summit is a rivalry game. But to get those 2 games out of the way, if they can stay in that 2nd seed, that's a home game. And we would talk about these District 3, District 4 games, Ward. I know you like planning in the future. I can tell you week 12, you're going to have some cameras at those games in District 3, 5A and 4, 5A. Big flowers. One of the flowers I wanted to give was to Waxahachie. I feel like we already did that. But how about your favorite team? Well, maybe at next second to Flower Mound. How about LD Bell? I mean, we're talking about undefeated. We're talking about walk-off wins, setting records. I mean, come on, LD.
You threw them at them last week. They're going to have bouquets all over the place. I can't through the flowers and see what's going on.
I can't not give this team their props because it is so fun. And, when we break down 4-6A, you kind of talk about, okay, you got the Kellers and the Northwest ISD schools and trying to figure that out. But LD Bell is looking at Trinity. Like, that is their game. Like, we can beat them. I mean, everybody's going to be looking at South Lake and go, well, it's South Lake. I'm sure the coaches aren't doing that, but we can as pundits. But LD Bell looks like they are in the playoff picture. And you put LD Bell and you put Trinity on a Thursday night in a random end of the season game. If LD Bell is 7-1 going into that game, hard to pick. It's going to be hard to pick against a team with momentum in a rivalry game.
Right. Pennington Field's going to be ripped apart if that's the case. It was ripped apart when the games don't mean anything except for rivalry status. You got any more flowers, or we want to go to shovels?
Let's go to shovels because when there are flowers in 4-6A, I gave a shovel last week. I got another shovel. Justin Northwest, even though the running back might have gave you some flowers in Carousel at 300 yards. I mean, when you run for 200 yards, that's impressive. When you run for 300 yards, that is next level. But it was all for naught because Northwest Eaton won. They're 0-2 in that district now with 2 losses. They still got Trinity, Byron Nelson, South Lake. That's shovel-worthy, Ward. When your chance to get into the playoffs revolves around upsetting South Lake, that's tough.
That's not going to happen. You're going to get hit with the shovel for sure. Anybody else is worthy of it?
That could have gotten flowers. And in the first half, I was thinking this. I look at halftime while the halftime show's going on, and I'm going through my scores. I see Rowlett's up 17-0. I'm like, okay, they won 70-0 against South Garland. Now 17-0 on Naaman Forest. That's good. All of a sudden you're back in the playoff picture. 3 straight touchdowns in the second half by Naaman Forest to lose 21-17 in that district, the way it's competitive now with Lakeview Centennial, Wiley, Saxe, Garland. Yeah. That's it for Rowlett, I think. So Rowlett, sorry, my friend.
They get the shovel. I hate to see it. Hate to see it. They're so close.
So close.
First, digging up the flowers.
First half. It was looking great.
Digging up the flowers, and then we just throw them down and hit them over there with the shovel. And that's the way it works sometimes. All right, let's get into some games. 3-6A, big one, Crowley against Weatherford. We're trying to figure out who these postseason teams are now that we got into district play in the 17th district. How much is this a factor here?
I don't know if it's a factor, but I'm looking for style points because it feels like for Crowley, they got their quarterback. They got their quarterback figured out. They know what they're going to do now. And can that turn into a 3-score win against Weatherford? If it can, I think they're a playoff team. If this game is one of those games like with Tyler Legacy that goes back and forth for 48 minutes, I think Crowley's going to be the 5th place team. I'm not going to throw a shovel at them until they play Mansfield. Mansfield's got to beat them. But Lake Ridge is looking good. Legacy's looking good. North Crowley, even with their loss, is still looking good. So can Crowley give me the style points and start to believe in them again? Looks like their quarterback's figured out. We know their wide receiver situation is figured out. I'm taking Crowley, but will they give me the style points? I think they are. I like what I saw at the end of that game coming back against Tyler Legacy. We could have had that clip on there. It was a very controversial one. Was it a touchdown? Was it or not? Was it not? Because it's non-district, it doesn't really matter. But in that game, I think they figured some things out, and I want to see how that progresses now that district starts.
Well, you mentioned Lake Ridge, and they're pretty confident. I had King Felix in there. King Felix came in this past week, and he's walking out saying, we were talking about how do you feel about district play. He said, well, first of all, at worst, I think we'll be 8-2 this year. It's like, all right, we have got ourselves a confident team that feels like they're a second-place team, so I like to hear that. All right, let's move on to 4-6A. This is battle for second place, I would think we both presume. Trinity, who, Pat was at this game. He said, Trinity looks good, but you can't tell they look good because they were playing South Lake. How good will they look against Byron Nelson?
There's 2 variables that you have to consider with that. It's exactly what you mentioned. How does Trinity bounce back in a situation where they didn't look bad? It was just that Carroll was playing elite football, but at the same time, you had Byron Nelson who's had 2 weeks to game plan for this. So they got to watch that. They got their South Lake comeuppance. They had 2 weeks to prepare for this. Now they got Trinity. For Trinity, I'm looking for 2 different factors. I'm taking Trinity, by the way, to win this game. Can Trinity bounce back emphatically? If this game is a 1-2 score game, every game is going to be that for Trinity because we saw how compact this district was because every game last week, Warden, 4-6A was a 1-score game. You had even Timber Creek and Central, what we consider the bottom of the district, that was a 1-score game. LD Bell had a walk-off field goal, 32-31 with Northwest Eaton and Justin Northwest. So is Byron Nelson closer to that? And similarly, is Trinity closer to that mix, or is Trinity that step above where I think they're a top 10 to 15 team in the area, and Byron Nelson, are they a top 15 to 20 team in the area, or are they kind of maybe a non-ranked team that's going to struggle to make the playoffs because Byron Nelson's got everybody because they had Carroll to start out with, now they have the bye week. So I'm looking for information on both teams. I think Trinity is going to win, and unfortunately, I think Byron Nelson may be closer to the middle of the pack. This may be a situation where Byron Nelson doesn't make the playoffs. I got to see something here. This is their chance to prove to me that they are clearly a area ranked, regionally ranked team because South Lake Carroll shook my confidence, but I think they're going to shake everybody's confidence. Yeah, exactly. But this is a chance this is a competitive game, much like with Louisville, where I think they can show me something.
And these are 2 good offenses, I think, at least above average, and they couldn't do anything against Carroll, which again, all we're doing here is praising Carroll instead of tearing down these teams, but they're just playing at a different level. Let's hope that Carroll could keep that when they're not playing some non-competitive games for the next 6 weeks. All right, let's LD Bell and Eaton. If next week you come on here giving flowers to LD Bell, then I'm going ahead and booking them for a playoff situation because this is a road game for them. They're going to Eaton. Your thoughts here?
Eaton did not show me any style points in that Northwest game, and LD Bell has now won 2 games close. So 2 things that I'm thinking that are going to happen in this game. It's going to be close because almost all the games in 4-6A are, and LD Bell has shown me the ability to win the close game in the 4th quarter. So I think it's a bit of an upset pick, but I'm taking LD Bell in this one. And I think that could, perhaps LD Bell gets a third bouquet of flowers, and Eaton might be my third shovel, because I think we're starting to develop some of the contenders and pretenders in District 4 6A. Man, Eaton defensively, I thought it was going to be Denton Ryan. Okay, well, Denton Ryan is Denton Ryan, so maybe that's why we that looked in the very first game. But giving up 31 to Justin Northwest, LD Bell's got a really good running game. So I think they're going to be able to control that. And LD Bell is just showing me that intangible of winning fourth quarter games, and a weapon of a kicker, 30, 40, 50. Yeah. Just get it to me, fourth quarter, LD Bell with a one-score win.
That's definitely a factor, by the way. Having a kicker that you confident can make 60-plus yards, that's a factor in some of these games, because half these schools out here don't have that, and they're thinking, okay, I'm down 3, I got to get down here and score a touchdown. I know I'm at the 20, but I got to keep going.
Right.
LD Bell didn't have that factor. All right, these boys at 5-6A had the week off, and now they're starting to play some district games here. Coppell's going into Hebron. This could kind of show us where some of these teams are stylistically.
Yeah, Coppell has been tough this year, because I feel like them and Melissa, another team we're going to talk about, I just don't know who they are yet, because they haven't played anybody yet. And then they had a rain game, and then they had a bye week, and we're just like, okay, man, we got 2 games, and those 2 games don't really tell us anything. We're in week 5. Ward did the math earlier, and we don't know much about Coppell, but we know about Zingelman. He looks good. He can run the ball. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. Hebron seems to have some struggles right now. Running back is really the position where I feel like they're best at. But some of the things that I was told that they were going to be good at, Lancaster kind of showed. We can do some things against this. So Coppell, I think Coppell is probably a 2 to 3 score favorite. But I'm also looking for the style points. Can Coppell show me? Because now we're in a situation where I feel like the landscape of what we talk about. It seems like for the last few years, Ward, this is year 4 of us doing this, we can kind of pencil in state semifinal games. We kind of say, okay, it's going to be North Crowley and Duncanville. Yeah. It's going to be, this team and this team. At this point, this is as wide open. I don't know if it's the same in Houston, but it is wide open. Coppell could be playing in AT&T. It's like before, you're good, but you're not North Crowley good. Or, you're good, but you're not Duncanville good. Everybody is at this level right now where Allen, Coppell, Waxahachie, Duncanville, North Crowley, North Forney. I mean, there are teams that prosper, are teams that could – South Lake Carroll is the only one that is like that elite team that I think you can kind of pencil in to kind of have that bypassed quick route into the state championship round. But in Division I, it is wide open. So for Coppell, this is a team that people on social media and have told me, I don't think they're ready yet. But I've told you, believe in Coach Wiley. I believe in the system. I kind of elevated them where other people. You and I had the debate earlier in the year about this versus Geyer, and is Geyer the team or is Coppell the team? But the way that Coppell played, where especially y'all were telling me after the Waxahachie game, I wanted to see 48 because I wanted to see the full 48. And then what does Waxahachie do? They beat Duncanville. Exactly. So I want to see Coppell for a full 48 against a pretty good team that we can start to look at. Okay, well, we know Hebron in Lancaster, how that kind of shaked out. Is Coppell 3 or 4 scores better than Hebron? Now we can kind of say, okay, Coppell is ready for a potential to take another step, even though they graduated everybody. So I'm excited about this game. This is going to be one I'm going to be refreshing. I think Coppell is closer to that. So I think Coppell by 3 scores. If they win by 4 or 5, watch out. I mean, this could be an AT&T Stadium kind of a performance.
And then they get Geyer the following week. And then, like you said, that Coppell game, they gave up 2 kick return touchdowns. Other than that, they shut down the other Wax's offense, and Wax beat Duncanville. So we're going to play that game, and then we're in for a treat. All right, we got an Axe game going on up here in Louisville. Be sure, if you're going to this game, to get there early because we still got construction over there at Louisville High School. We're building things. We're progressing. We're building buildings. Architecture dream over there, architect's dream. But Louisville's taking on Marcus. In my mind, I still have Louisville, Coppell, and Geyer as those top 3. So Marcus needs to stay above the other guys in the district to get that 4th spot. They got the quarterback to do it. Do they have the rest to do it?
That's the problem with Marcus. Is I was digging into their stats this week to kind of get ready for our podcast. And okay, Colton Esmeyer looks really good. Who's the next kid up? Who's the next one? It's kind of the same thing with Lovejoy. Lovejoy is all Jacob Janicek right now. And then you're like looking, who's the support team? And you're looking,
show us, did they?
There's nobody. And that's kind of the same thing right now with Marcus is I'm looking for who's going to be there. Who's going to be that running back? Who's going to be that wide receiver? Cade McKnight and Austin Allen are their leading guys, but they haven't done anything significant. Whereas when I look at Louisville, Tennell Hill, he's a difference maker by himself. Landon Bogany, he is a touchdown machine. He's got 4 touchdowns this year. Landon Brazel, and Louisville is struggling. These are like the third and fourth string kids right now because they got injuries that they're hoping that are going to come back in and fill some of those spots. And having a bye week right now is probably really good timing. I think Louisville wins this game in somewhat convincing fashion, 2-3 scores. Unless Marcus finally in this bye week, that kid steps up for Marcus because I'm looking for that with a few for Argyle, with Lovejoy, and with Marcus. Who's going to be those players to step up and support your big dogs?
Because Arlington gave him trouble too in that rain shortened game. So if you're going to and Louisville has the secondary to throw fits there to Nussmeier. So we'll have to see what happens in that one. Moving on to 6-6A. This is right now you read your dump. You can see that Princeton and Rock Hill are in there, and Plano West, Princeton and Plano West are playoff teams right now. Plano can jump right in there if they can get a win on the road here against Marcus Flower and the boys.
Yeah, this is probably going to sound like my sour grapes personal beef, but Princeton, and maybe I'm wrong because I've learned word if you say maybe I'm wrong, that makes you can say whatever you want.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I you say it all the time.
But then I throw in there Princeton against Plano East +3 in the turnover battle. Princeton against Rock Hill +4. That you can't sustain that.
No,
that is a hard thing to sustain. Like even if a 0-0, if Princeton just had, they had 2 turnovers, Plano East had 2 turnovers, if they had 2 turnovers and Rock Hill had 2 turnovers, I don't think they win either of those games. Princeton only had 300 yards of offense against Rock Hill. Rock Hill had the 600 yards against them. I think Plano is, because they can run the ball effectively, and Princeton's front 7 is not, the biggest and best front 7. I think Plano is going to be able to take the turnovers out of the game. And now we're going to have a chance to see, can Princeton win a game when they're not 3 or 4 turnover favorites? And right now, I don't think the data supports that. So I'm taking Plano. I don't even think it's an upset. I think Princeton's got to, get 2 or 3 turnovers to win these games. They have 2 weeks in a row. Can they do it a third straight time? I don't think so. I think Plano, because they can keep the ball on the ground, that will kind of compress the game and keep their high-powered offense off the field. I think Plano wins this game by 14.
Yeah, well, if you turn over a team, it's because you play risky defense. You're trying to make big plays all the time, and that can come and bite you. You look at their scores; they have given up 40, 50 every game. It's not like they're shutting everybody down and getting turnovers. They're not shutting anybody down, and they just happen to get the turnovers. So yeah, they're going to have to get some defensive play that's not just turnovers. 7-6A had their week off as well. Now we have a huge game, Richardson against Burton. I believe this is the one that started the things off last year, right? When Richardson was it Burton who won that game?
Richardson won the game.
Richard won the game and they got themselves in the postseason. So
yeah,
they're going to need to do that again, right?
I think they can lose this game and still make the playoffs because there's Pierce and Jesuit, and right. I think everybody's going to be a little bit below Lake Highlands. But Berkner, they've been one of those teams I feel like we've been talking about for a couple of years. Can they finally take that step? Can they have not won a game like this in Coach Bryant's era. And Coach Bryant, he talks about, we're going to be defined by these games. So he knows it. He knows it's on his radar. He doesn't shy away from it. He knows that some games are a little bit more important than others, and this is one of them. Oh, but man, Richardson, the way they can shut down the run because of that front line, we could talk about Winfield, the USC commit, right. But they got a couple other kids there who are, 28 kids who are going to be there for years to come. Berkner has not shown me anything in non-district that shows me that they're going to win this game. They've had 2 weeks to prepare, but I think Richardson's going to win an ugly 18-12 kind of a game where you're going to have some sort of weird numbers involved. You
look at Richardson on paper. If they can get the offense going, if they can somehow get some points, if they get 21 or up, they could be second-place team in this district. I mean, they lost the Lake Ridge game because they got picked off in the end zone, but this is they could go as high as 2, but you guys show us something right off the bat here in this district play.
But Lake Ridge has been doing that. I mean, they did that against Reedy where they got, they picked it out. So
maybe that's their thing. All right, Arlington at SGP. We're going down to the small sidelines of Gopher Warrior Bowl. Just try to maneuver your way around there if you're on the field. But this should be a good game. This should be an interesting game. I don't know what you've learned from Arlington besides the fact they don't lose, but we're going to find something against South Grand Prairie this week.
These are teams that have one of their Achilles heels is they have a hard time playing 48 minutes. I mean, I know you were looking at halftime and saying, "Oh, there's my Vodrico." Say his name, Morton.
Vodrico.
Your guy. All of a sudden, Haltom's up big on Arlington, and we're like, okay, it looks like Haltom, the 8-6-8 juggernauts, once that district light switch comes on, this team turns into a different thing. But Arlington, with the second half shutout, able to come back. In South Grand Prairie, I just keep thinking about that Timber Creek game, how, man, it feels like they just kind of shut down in the second half and let Timber Creek do whatever. South Grand Prairie has some defensive inefficiencies. Arlington has some question marks and consistency for 48 minutes. But given what we know about both teams and kind of the known knowns and the known unknowns is one of my new favorite thing this year, I think South Grand Prairie is more likely to play a consistent 48. I'm going to take them by 14 in a shootout because it seems like in Arlington, Martin, and Lamar kind of showed us the pace. It's got to be that race to 40. You got to get 40 to get wins when you're playing in that top six teams. And I think South Grand Prairie is a little bit more equipped to get to that 40 point.
I think they're going to be my first place pick from here on out, just because of the way in this district, that's what you got to do. You just score and keep scoring, and just give the scorekeepers hands a carpal tunnel if you have to, but you got to keep on scoring to get out of that thing.
Now, while we're in 8-6-8 talk, you kind of broke the news that we got the new stadium getting opened.
That's true. We got Seguin playing the Colony over the new stadium right behind Martin's high school. So they're going to break that thing out on Thursday night, and we'll start playing games there. I think we're going to move away from Maverick Stadium a little bit. It's going to be exciting. You going out there?
There?
We are going to have a camera there. We're going to go see what, give you some pretty pictures of get the drone out there. Take a look at this thing.
Okay.
See if we can compare it to Melissa. Although that might be difficult. Melissa has one heck of a stadium. All right, 9-6-8. Saxe against Lakeview Centennial. Saxe kind of couldn't stop Dalen Gordon last week, and Lakeview Centennial got a big win last Thursday night. The Thursday night crew. They got 8 Thursday night games this year for the Patriots. What do you think about this one? Because you were tempted to go to this one at one point.
I thought about it, but then I found another game I liked. I probably like this game a little bit better, but I have a chance to see Lakeview Centennial and Wiley later on. So, and getting to see Creekview and
it sounds like you looked ahead. That doesn't sound like
people
something you
tagged me. Our friend over on the Wiley podcast who clipped us last week to make fun of us because we picked, or at least I picked Saxe to win that game. He highlighted, he's like, Diggs, come see Wiley and Lakeview Centennial. Of course, he's doing it from the angle of come watch Wiley win another game. You're going to pick us to lose, which I probably will, by the way. Whereas because you got Lakeview Centennial showing us that against North Garland, we were looking for that from Wiley. Wiley is still winning these one-score games and kind of games where you scratch your head afterward, whereas Lakeview Centennial finally in 9-6-8 showed us a little bit of dominance. And given that Saxe was messing around with Wiley, and I don't know, I look at their box scores every week, and it's like somebody new is at running back, somebody new is at quarterback, and they got a quarterback who was supposed to be kind of that incumbent guy. They changed his name. He's at running back. What's going on?
They changed him back to Dirk Williams. At least that's what the PA guy did. And now he's over at receiver, running back receiver type deal. And they got Christian McCaffrey. No, not that Christian McCaffrey, running the quarterback position. So, yeah,
it's not working.
We're mixing up positions mid-season here, so I don't know what's going on.
In Lakeview Centennial, they're hanging their hat on defense right now. So I think it's going to be what I like to call a bowling shoe ugly game. You're probably not going to want to go do highlights because it's going to be the defensive highlights. But I think Lakeview Centennial, it's like you talked about with Richardson. That's why that was such a perfect game in retrospect for Lakeview Centennial and Richardson to play, because it's going to be that kind of style of game for both those teams to win. Can Lakeview Centennial get to 21? If they can, I think they win this game. I think they win like a 21-13 kind of game.
Well, we have 10-6A coming up here, and 10-6A is a district that will probably have 2-3 games every single week because this is the fun district. This is one that I'll be at, North Forney, hosting Forney. Who knows if I'll make it back in time for Friday night recap. I'll give it my best shot, Diggs. Otherwise, I'm a big call-in. First-time caller, long-time listener. But what do you think about this?
Terrell and
Terrell going there first, and this one's at 7:30, so it's a journey.
That's perfect for you. You get the double header.
Exactly, double up.
And you get that good gas mileage because I know our friends.
Buddy.
That's right.
Time to get paid.
Mile.
Let's go.
That's Wizzy.
We're getting some sweet Christmas presents around here. All right, tell me what you think about this one, because could be an offensive bombshell game here.
Yeah, what I can tell you about 10-6A is I've seen every team. I've seen both these teams. I've seen every team other than Longview and Tyler Legacy, which you say don't even exist.
Every local
out
team
in the
you've
world.
seen.
Every local team that I've seen. I don't even get. You don't hear me debating about Tyler and Longview as local teams, but we got to cover them because they are in our district, in our DFW area district. So we have to. You have to know what you're talking about when we talk about Tyler Legacy, because otherwise we look like idiots. But you know who picked Tyler Legacy to beat Crowley last week? This guy did.
And who got
like
it right?
Genius. I got it right.
Genius. He got it still.
Got up to 80%, even though you're beating me in Gossett's Pick'em, which I don't know how you're doing that.
Well, I looked at those rankings. It looks like everybody's beating you. What the heck's going on with you this year?
Okay. I was down. Yeah, I was down. I'm down 6. I've already made up 2 games, and it's just 2 games a week. It's a slow go.
As you learn the teams, that's when you start dominating, right?
You got to chip away at it. But I still don't feel like I know anything about North Forney, because I watched what DeSoto did to Mesquite last week, 70 plus to nothing. That is what a good team is supposed to do to a team that they're better than. But North Forney just kind of sleepwalks. They kind of sleptwalk through the Lake Ridge game as well. It's just, and I feel like there's a situation where if North Forney has to pass the ball, it's like they haven't developed that part of their offense yet. It's a hole. And now I'm looking at Rockwall having beat North Crowley last week. Looking at Longview, who is battle-tested, even though their record is not where you might want to think it is, going out to Ruston and playing Ruston 38-35 after playing Sock 20-17. Longview is battle-tested. They are ready to go for this district. Forney kind of had a little bit of a weaker schedule at the end, playing Boswell. But they lit up Boswell. I mean, they got their style points there. But that Waxahachie game worries me, because they were non-competitive in that Waxahachie game. And North Forney has that kind of talent. So I'm going to take North Forney, but, man, it would not surprise me if North Forney continues to sleepwalk, and if Forney can force North Forney in a situation where they have to pass the ball.
Right.
They're not going to be able to win. But if North Forney can establish the run, get up early, and just lean on that big front 5 on the offensive line, I think they can take care of this.
Because Forney can pass and they can run. They just got to do something defensively. They got to. Especially in this district, because they're going to need to, especially when they have teams like this coming up. Rockwall and Royce City playing. Royce City can put up points. Rockwall can put up points, as you saw. Rockwall is just a trap game because, they just still kind of think of Royce City as little boy Royce City, and Royce City hasn't really played much, but they're 4-0, and they're coming off a major win.
Well, unfortunately for that mentality, Royce City's coach was the OC over at Rockwall, so they're all familiar with each other. So I feel like Coach Colvin's not going to have that edge. If this was maybe Tyler Legacy or something, you might be able to sneak in and go, okay, we don't know what's going on with this little, the school next to the Buc-ee's over there on I-30. But man, this is so captivating because it's Royce City's introduction to the big time. You introduced them to the world on the show this past week, and now Rockwall kind of counteracted that. Yeah, we can one up you. Let's beat North Crowley on you. Now that you're going to feature Royce City on as your feature segment, we'll just go out and beat North Crowley and one up you yet again. For Rockwall, I feel like their play hinges on their quarterback. As Rickert goes, this team goes. He was phenomenal against North Crowley. And I feel like Royce City defensively doesn't have the athletes that North Crowley does. So I feel like Rickert has a really good chance to shine in that atmosphere. If Royce City can shut them down, that's where they're going to win the game. I don't know that they can. By one score, very reluctantly, I'm taking Rockwall.
Is this one going to be a shootout?
Yes.
We looking in the 40s here? Because, when I talked to Coach Colvin, he off camera said, I'd be disappointed if this team didn't make the playoffs. And every time I talk with you, you're talking about this district is great. Royce City is going to probably finish 6th. So one of them, either you or him is going to be disappointed. Who's it going to be?
He can tell you that he loves to disappoint me because he will bring up the time that I picked his team when he was in Dallas to lose by 50 and they won the game. So he loves proving me wrong. And I think that this week we're going to get clipped as I'm picking Rockwall to win a game by a score. But I'm giving you the caveats that Royce City is good enough to win this game. I've seen them both in person, but I feel like Rockwall, they showed it. Like Rockwall has no business beating North Crowley. But that jacket fight never dies is what they've been growing up with. That orange, like that color you're wearing, that ugly orange is what they have been bleeding. It looks orange to me. I don't have the best vision. That ugly orange to me is what they have been bleeding for a while. Whereas Royce City, they're trying to build that culture, but this is year 2 of that culture. You know, they can talk about their zip codes and they can talk about their cities. It is born and bred in Rockwall for a while, and he knows it. And so therefore, I feel like Royce City has got to do something special, whether it's an onside kick, because you know Rockwall loves doing a little bit of the crazy special teams play. I'm sure, I don't think it's going to be a special teams wrinkle, but I'm sure Royce City is going to do something like you might have seen. Well, I don't think you were there for the play anyway. Like the swinging gate or something after a quick play where you can just get in there and try to get Rockwall, something you've never seen. They're going to have 3 of those plays. I'm going to go and predict they're going to have 3 of those plays. If they can hit 2 of the 3, that's the kind of stuff that they're going to have to do to win. I just don't believe in them yet because you got, just like with Waxahachie, I'm hard. You got to shake me, Ward. You got to shake me and show me you're ready. I just can't anoint you.
Shake them true. I got you. Shake them true.
What color is your shirt, by the way?
It's red. And if we can get one of these sponsors from those Facebook videos I watch where these poor guys have been colorblind all their life and they give them these glasses, all of a sudden they can see colors. Let's get that for Dixie so he can see what red looks like. This guy. Give him the.
That's certainly not Commander's red. Is that Commander's red?
Not Commander's red. It's just regular. It's Cedar Hill red. Speaking of which, let's talk about Cedar Hill and Lancaster because there is 4 spots. There's 5 teams fighting for them as always, and maybe the loser of this game don't make it.
Yeah, and Lancaster's got their quarterback, CJ Daughtry, finally got cleared through that process, and I feel like they're better with them. But I feel like Cedar Hill has gone to the next level with Omalwale Muhammad at quarterback. Yeah. They got Jules Carter and Jalen Williams at running back. Trenton Jones has been fantastic at wide receiver. I look at what happened last week. Cedar Hill dominant over Skyline, no question. That game they were up big on. Mesquite Horn was up on Lancaster going into the second quarter, and that game kind of retrospectively doesn't look great. And, I'm looking for Joseph Hairston. Where was he is he injured? Like, what's going on? So I feel like, and then I look at the secondary. There are some issues there, I feel like, with some depth with Lancaster that I just and you know the sport because every time I pick against Lancaster, what happens?
They win.
And I pick them to upset a team, and what happens? They lose. Exactly. Like, I can't get Lancaster, right? So maybe for my friends in Lancaster, they're going to love this pick. And for our friends who love Cedar Hill, they're going to be like, please pick against us, Diggs. This is a game where both teams are saying, please pick against us because they need that extra chip on the shoulder. I think it's an upset because I believe in Lancaster, but Cedar Hill has proven they deserve the upset nod. Give me Cedar Hill because of that quarterback and the quarterback play.
He's playing great. He is certainly playing great. DeSoto's got a home game about 6 miles away from that Cedar Hill one against Waxahachie, and for the whole off season, I was picking some Wax to beat Duncanville. I backed off like a punk. As we went into the week, I backed off. I shouldn't have done it because they did it. I'm picking DeSoto in this one. I think DeSoto's going to beat him at home. And
let's hear your wisdom, if you will.
Mine now, it's just the motivation that Mathis does for these type games. I don't know what he did for the ones for North Crowley. He wasn't, that was a rain thing, and he probably motivated him to come out. We're not going to let this game end until it's 1 a.m. He knows how to motivate. I remember being in the locker room when they played Wax like 10 years ago. He said, "This is the biggest rivalry game ever," and I was like, "It is." Isn't Cedar Hill right down there? When was this one a big rivalry game? But whatever it is, he pulled out the chainsaw, got them all riled up. I just think DeSoto is now starting to see what it's like to be able to score at will, and they're seeing their offense actually work, and their defense work, and all they had to do is just see it work against some teams, and they're going to bring it into this game against Wax. And Meyer and Cohen Brown aren't really putting up eye-popping numbers right now. They're doing stuff with those big-time athletes on defense, and I think Snell against a Booby Feaster might be a pretty interesting matchup to look at, but they're not putting up eye-popping matchups or numbers right now.
I'm going to give you kind of an alternative take. I was thinking about the Rangers who, they won 7 straight, and then all of a sudden they got Adolis Garcia back. And I hear people saying, never mess with the win streak. But he's an all-star player. He's kind of what led them to the promised land. They get him back in there, And then it's like they can't win ever since then. And I believe that at the beginning of the year, they're better with Legend Hal at quarterback. But he came back last week, and obviously it's not going to necessarily be the point because they won last week 77-0.
You think Sherrod Baker should still be out there?
I feel like Sherrod Baker, and he got half the snaps at quarterback last week. But I feel like for whatever reason, it worked. Kind of like with Cedar Hill. He might not be the best quarterback on the team. But for whatever reason, when he's back there, the kids play 128% instead of 100. I don't know what it is, but it's like this, it works. So I feel like, kind of like even though Adolis Garcia might be better replacement value than what, he replaced, it worked with him. So I feel like that's one intangible that's kind of making me go with Waxahachie in this game. Also, other homecoming, there's going to be a lot of distractions. I feel like DeSoto has gotten to that next level in flexing over teams that they're inferior than. They did it against Corpus Christi Carroll. They did it against Mesquite. Waxahachie's not that team. Waxahachie is going to match them player for player. Waxahachie is probably better player for player in the 22, because we talked about the 22 probably on both sides of the ball for Duncanville, and Waxahachie could play college football. I don't think that's the case for DeSoto. Maybe 14-50. I mean, still, you'll take it. There's going to be almost any team outside of Duncanville and Waxahachie would take that trade in a heartbeat. So for DeSoto, I just feel like the depth is not there, and Waxahachie has the depth, and Waxahachie knows that what we did to prove ourselves against Duncanville gets erased if we go in and we lose this game. It's going to be close. Waxahachie by a score.
Well, you just said they had packages for Sherrod to be quarterback too. It's not like they completely ditched him and said, "Legend, you're back in there." If they're still running packages back and forth, I think, and then they start running that NASCAR offensive scheme where they hurry up to the line of scrimmage every single play, that could get tiresome on a Big Ten play drive. We'll see what happens. By the way, Duncanville plays Skyline this week, and then they get the much needed bye week. I'm so happy. I'm so happy they get a week off. That's snarky for you. All right, Arlington Heights. I'll be at this game because I'm doing a story in Arlington Heights, a story called "Will They Ever Give a Point Up This Entire Season?" It's actually not called that. But I do want to dig deep into finding out what's going on with that defense and why is it so dominant. And on the flip side, why has their offense been so dominant as well? They're finally getting a decent test here at Chisholm Chair, right? 2
predictions. They will get scored on this week, but they'll win big. So I think Arlington Heights will lose. So don't have that as your full thing, because I think Chisholm Trail will kick a field goal. I think they will get on the scoreboard at some point, but Arlington Heights I think is going to win this game big, probably by 30 or 40. But I wanted to get it on here just because this is our first chance to kind of see how it goes against the top half of the district. And if they shut them out, I think we could legitimately see a season where they don't give a point. Because Chisholm Trail, I think, has one. If they can shut out Chisholm Trail, they can probably shut out Wyatt, Pascal, and Saginaw High. Yeah, I got to drive by Pascal last night. It's been a couple of years since while I was kind of hanging out at Old South and the TCU area. That's a really nice campus over there. Just I like Pascal.
I like that. Let's talk about Odie Wyatt and Saginaw. Now these two dogs want to go after the big dog, but they got to fight each other first. What do you think is going to happen in this big one?
First of all, I'm mad. I'm a little mad because when I was doing this is why I double check things. This came across to me as a Saturday night 7:30 game, and I was like, I think I'm going to go see this game because he has. And then I checked the Max Press and moved to 11 a.m. I'm like, come on, Fort Worth ISD. Why you got? I don't do 11 a.m. I'm dumping until 4 or 5 a.m. That's a ward special right there. But man, I can't be doing this. 11 a.m., especially in Fort Worth. That's like a 9:30 wake-up call or something.
I might be able to do that one. I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking 7:32. Let me work on the schedule while you finish this podcast.
You can talk about it. But, Odie Wyatt beat Chisholm Trail already. So this is kind of my calibration. Is Odie Wyatt a pure number 3, or are we going to see a situation where maybe Saginaw beats him, knocks them down to number 4, but they've got the buffer win? Or is there a situation where all 3 teams might beat each other? So I feel like because of the way that Odie Wyatt beat Chisholm Trail, they love when I pick against them as well. I feel like Saginaw is not going to make the mistakes that Chisholm Trail did. I think Saginaw wins this game by 10, and I think it's going to jump up into that 3 spot over Odie Wyatt, but I think Odie Wyatt is still a playoff team.
Gotcha. All right, let's go to – we saw Wakeland last week. Obviously, we were both impressed by Grayson Meyer for what he did on both sides of the ball. Now they're heading into McKinney North. Tell me what you feel about this 5-5A game.
Brennan Meyer, he impressed us at quarterback for 3 years, and now Grayson Meyer. The Meyer family is just giving us all kinds of amazing platitudes to talk about Wakeland. See, I'm looking at your shirt again, Warden, and it looks like that Wakeland orange. If we could put up the little helmet that I took, I'm telling you.
Oh, you're not seeing red.
I'm just saying. I see the Wakeland orange in that. Wakeland is going to be a favorite in this game, but for me, this thing is going to be, can McKinney North compete for a playoff spot? Because Frisco put a little bit of a gap between them and Frisco Heritage this past week. McKinney North hasn't played anybody to really let us know, can they compete with the top four? It just feels like McKinney North, because they've been so good consistently, should be there. But this season they look a step down. So can they be competitive against Wakeland? Because Wakeland at times, they looked like they were sleepwalking through that game. And it might be sour grapes.
Maples didn't really impress me all that much until we got going there in the fourth quarter.
But it was the fourth quarter when Reedy got worn down by injuries. Yeah. That's when Wakeland finally started to open things up. So was that because they finally wore him down, or was it because the Jimmies and Joes for Reedy finally wore down to where all of a sudden those things now became available because you had your best 2 D linemen who couldn't rush the ball because, as we talked about, Maples was getting all kinds of pressure and just couldn't. He would run out of bounds and not necessarily make any plays at times. I think they're going to win over McKinney North, but it's going to be the closeness of it that will determine, can McKinney North compete or not. But I think Frisco Wakeland wins a 35-14 game. If McKinney North can get that to a 1-score game, they can compete in this district.
Gotcha. All right, we're going to get some decent 6-5A Division I games here with Creekview taking on North Mesquite at Standridge, place you just told me you hadn't been to in a while. You're going to it this week, right, buddy? Want me to get you a pass for that joint?
Get me a pass for that joint. Okay. I'll give high fives to Kenny. This is like a Kenny game, too.
It is a Kenny game, isn't it? I bet he'll be there. You and him. God bless it. I'm left out again.
I feel like this is an absolutely – and I got to check on something Ward is going to be doing. We'll talk about that in about 20 minutes just to make sure that doesn't go well on that. Creekview looks like they're a favorite, but I keep saying every year, Ward, North Mesquite, can they take the step? And then they're just a little bit short. And I feel like they can take the next step, but they're just a little bit short. Losing to West Mesquite the way they did, yeah, that's not anything. But it seems like Thursday night games when you got W.T. White, R.L. Turner, Creekview, Celina, North Mesquite, it's like a shootout. And that's probably what you're thinking when you're thinking what you're thinking later on.
It's going to be a shootout. I like your analysis of this one, big guy. Keep going.
I'm cheering for North Mesquite. I want to see North Mesquite take that next step. State Creekview is 1 score better.
I got you. All right, let's move down to Division II. Argyle heading into Colleyville Heritage. I know the Colleyville Heritage crew gave you a lot of the business, and they were scoring points. They looked like they had it, but, man, I think you're going to give it to them a little bit now since they gave that win back to Timberview, and Argyle had a chance to give that win back to Timberview, and they didn't. Now they're heading into Grapevine Mustang Panther Stadium to see what happens here.
One thing that I'm very comforted by with Colleyville Heritage is Timberview's got a really good defense. I mean, you saw how they kind of shut down Denton Ryan, how they shut down Kimball. Kimball is not a team that is playing bad football right now, so you can't say, oh, it's just Kimball or Denton Ryan or whatever. Denton Ryan had a hard time putting up points. Colleyville Heritage put up 43. I mean, there were 42. They got 43 scored on them. But Colleyville Heritage doesn't put their bread and butter on the defensive side of the ball. It's their offensive side of the ball that really is what is generated. So if they can do that against Timberview, they can do that against Argyle, I believe. And Argyle is one of those teams, just like Lovejoy, they look a little bit lost right now. They got everybody back, but, it's like just a little bit off. But I feel like Argyle is finally going to take a step through, and I think it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a back-and-forth game. First 1 to 50 wins this game. But Argyle, I feel like Colleyville Heritage will be competitive in this game. It's not going to be a blowout. But Argyle, they're my dogs for a reason. I mean, I picked them number 1. I've got them as the regional favorite, but I've been less than impressed with what I'm doing. This is a chance for them to impress me.
All right. Who needs to impress you in this one? Grapevine against Mansfield Summit. Now, I'm picking Summit, obviously, because I don't put stock too much in that Grapevine overtime game just because they only did it all in 1 minute of play there in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, they had only scored 6 points. But they did do it. You got to play the games. Your thoughts on them going into Mansfield Summit for that one?
That's the thing. Summit showed me against Burleson that Yeah, they're not a dominant team. They're not elite. There's still some questions on both sides of the ball. And Grapevine is in these games enough to where it's just going to take one play or two plays. Like you, Summit should be a favorite, but all of a sudden, this is a number 5 versus number 9 game. It would not shock me if Grapevine wins this game. And that's how competitive this district is. Because usually when you got a last place team playing a team that's fighting for a playoff spot, it's a shock if that last place team wins. This and 6-6A are two districts where it is so close from the bottom of the playoffs to the bottom of the district that anything can happen. 1 or 2 turnovers. We talked about it in 6-6A. If all of a sudden Mansfield Summit goes -4 on you, Grapevine's going to win this game. Right. They've showed they're good enough to do that. I just don't know if they're consistent enough. And offensively, Seguin shut them down until that last minute of the game. So can Summit do that? And can they keep them down? But that's why I'm interested in this game. That's why I wanted to put it forward, because Grapevine is good enough, and they've shown if they just need a break or two to win this game, but Summit should take care of business.
Excellent. All right, moving down to 4-5A Division II. Going into that game with Lovejoy, when I found out the game got switched to Anna because of the power outage against Lovejoy, I was thinking, oh boy, the stars are aligning for Anna this year. They got an extra home game. But it wouldn't have mattered if they played that game in the moon the way that Ziandre played in the second half. He's really playing at another level here, and the way he kind of dominated that and took control of that offense in the second half. Now he's got a home game against Melissa. What do you think in this one?
This is one where I know very little about Anna, I know a lot about Anna. I know very little about Melissa because they played Don Bosco, a New Jersey team. Then they got a game rained out, and then they beat the bad teams badly. Right. So it's like, what is this Melissa team? And it's hard for me to know that. And kind of going into the Anna Lovejoy game, we had that same problem with Anna because they played an out-of-state team, and we're trying to figure it out. But I just had this gut that told me Anna in this game. Remember last year, Ward, Melissa beat Anna. Yeah. So this is a situation where Anna's got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because Anna beat Walnut Grove, but at the same time, they lost to Melissa. Melissa is not going to go into Anna intimidated by any means. Something about this game is telling me take Melissa. I'm taking Melissa in an upset just because I feel like I look at that 8 and it means nothing. I get it means nothing. But Anna against that Arizona team only put up 18 points. So I feel like a good defense can shut down Anna if you can get there in the kind of if you have the mechanics that Arizona team did. I think Melissa does. Now, is that mechanics looking like that because they're playing really bad teams? Maybe. That could be my eyes deceiving me because of their opponents and the fact that they played a national powerhouse and they played bad teams. It might be looking a little bit different than what it really is. So that could very well be the case. But Melissa's got the depth. Melissa has got the intangibles, I feel like. I feel like they're going to beat Anna again. I just feel like they got their number.
I think you're.
Anna may go around and then beat Walnut Grove. I mean, it just seems like it's down to the matchups, and I feel like Melissa defensively might have what it takes to slow down Zai.
I feel like we know the 4 playoff teams this year, unlike last year where we weren't quite sure. I think Emerson is quite a tier or 2 down below those 4, and I also think you're putting way too much stock in that Arizona thing. I mean, heck, it got rained into a 7:30 a.m. game on a Saturday. They just want to get the thing over with at that point. But anyway, you've already put your stock in there. So
what about the Argyle Liberty Christian game? I mean, same thing there.
Liberty Christian's a good squad.
They are. Melissa's a good squad.
All right. I'm moving on. Tell me what I'm walking into here. I haven't seen the Terrell Tigers. I've never seen them on the road. Or, I mean, at home. It would be on the road for me because I'm coming in from Flower Mound. I've never seen them at their home stadium. Boy, am I going to be treated like a king there? Probably not. You haven't seen us in 20 years, so screw you. But I'm coming in to see Kaufman. I know my man Adrian Miles wants to see me because me and him got to talk fantasy. We'll talk about that later. And how he pulled me out of the dumpster. Yeah, my guy. Give him a bobblehead for that. What's going to happen in this game, man? Because that's my first stop Friday night.
Terrell, they like to run the ball. They like being physical. They like hitting you. And those elements are what are really driving their success this year. And all those are going to work against Kaufman. We saw Ennis did it against Kaufman. That was a 42-21 game. I think Terrell is a notch above Ennis when it comes to that. So I think you're going to get some first half highlights. I think you'll be happy. You got to hope for some Kaufman highlights because I think your Terrell highlights are going to be what is going to be there. I think Terrell is going to win this game by 4 scores because I think they're about a score better than Ennis, and Ennis was 3 scores better than Coffin. So I'm thinking maybe 56-28 kind of a game. Terrell should be able to score at will in this game. But can Coffin go score for score? I don't think they can. They couldn't go against score for score against Ennis, so I don't think they're going to go score for score against Terrell.
All right, if I hear you say score for score one more time, I'm going to lose my mind.
Score
all right.
for score. It's just what we're
Glen Rose. We can't figure out Glen Rose. What's going on there? They got a game now. They have to go into Alvarado to see what they can do against them. This isn't the Glen Rose team that I'm used to seeing the last.
It's not. Years. I mean, this game is a 60-point margin. I only wanted to put it on to just mention 2 things. First of all, Glen Rose has fallen off the face. It's been a while since a team that has gone 4 or 5 deep regularly over the last 3 or 4 years has taken this far of a drop. I know it's a little bit smaller school, but man. Of course, this is the time when small schools, when I talk about this, all of a sudden we get a big upset, and then I pick a team by 50, and they end up winning the game, and I'm just like, what has happened here? But Alvarado looks like they're better,
Colvin, right? Coach Colvin,
just like Coach Colvin. I feel like Alvarado's better this year through their performance than they were last year, and they graduated probably their best player that's been at Alvarado in the last 20 years. So. I don't know what's going on with Alvarado, but they keep putting on. I talk about style points. They're giving me the style points. I think they're going to give us one more week of style points. Alvarado by 60.
60, he says. Now, how has that happened, by the way? They're both small schools. They both have kids graduating. They usually don't take any transfers in like some of the bigger schools do, but yet it's just the cycle of kids that come through. I guess it's Glen Rose doesn't have what it takes to keep up, and Alvarado keeps plugging away. All right. This is our game of the week. Celina versus Panther Creek. I got Pox will be up there at Celina and seen that stadium. Last time he went, he had to drive into a neighborhood when GA was the coach there, and he'd try to find a spot to park and then walk a mile to get to the stadium. Not anymore. Now we got ourselves a sweet stadium. Panther Creek's got themselves a true big 3 now because Donovan Webb is now playing running back a lot more than he did last year, and that adds another factor to their offense. But can their defense stop Bo Bentley and the boys?
No. And I think that at the end of the day, that's the problem. That Panther Creek, that front 3 looks really good. Celina's got a little more depth. And one other thing I want to kind of give you as my Celina talking point, Panther Creek, for whatever reason, did not schedule like we think we're a state championship team. 2 years ago, the teams they were playing – I mean, we're talking about Fort Worth Southwest. We're talking about Kennedale. That's not their fault. I mean, Kennedale didn't kind of unexpectedly took a step back. But Lake Worth, Carter, these are not teams getting them ready. Belleville, Franklin, La Vega, these are teams, Gunner, these are teams that are getting Celina ready. Physical play in the line. Panther Creek, this is the best. I mean, not only is it the best game they've seen this year, best team they've seen this year, they haven't seen anywhere close to it. Whereas Celina, Panther Creek is still going to be the best team that they've seen this year, but it's not like it's a big drop off like it is with Panther Creek in their schedule. I think because Celina has had to overcome a little bit of adversity, their defense is a little bit more refined and a little bit more experienced than Panther Creek to be ready and to have all that extra practice last year. Man, it's going to be a fun game. I agree with it as the game of the week. Celina by a score.
That's a very good point about who they've played. And there's also, and it's not developed into a huge rivalry game yet, but it is. I mean, Celina still talks about 2 years ago for that district title. They still talk about that game. And they've only lost one game since then, one playoff game against Stephenville. And Panther Creek is going into against a team that's won, I think it's 20-some games in a row now, but it's developing into something. And I know Celina's moving up. I don't know if Panther Creek is moving up next year. If they do and stay in the same district, then that's going to be something that we're going to talk about for a while.
Let me give you a parallel just because I think it's interesting because it just kind of popped in my head. You could almost say the same exact things we said with Rockwall and Royce City because you got the Rockwall team that is established. You got the Orange team that's established, has been there for generations, got some pedigree, and you got the new kids on the block. You got the new kids who, will get a win or two here, got the freshman wins and things like that. Panther Creek had a little bit more success in Roy City, but Roy City was going 1 or 2 deep when they were in 5A. I mean, they weren't just completely, 3-7 kind of a teams. So it's really about taking that next step. And I feel like, Celina, I love how you talked about it, Ward, when you interviewed Bo Bentley. It's like you could see in his eyes, this kid is not going to lose. And you got him as the best player out on the field. Yeah, Jalen Lott might question him as the best player on the field statistically, but Jalen Lott's not going to have the ball in his hand 40 times like Bo Bentley is. So when you've got that kind of a player that you can just step on and say, okay, you can lean on and say, okay, take us to the next level. Celina's got that. Panther Creek has the talent, but I feel like defensively and the intangibles, Celina expects to win this game. They're talking about West Plains. When you go in there filming, that's their wall. It's the West Plains wall. It's not the Panther Creek wall.
Yeah, I think I brought this up to you. West Plains is actually playing at Liberty Christian this year in a couple of weeks. Maybe they're going to probably have one guy on the sideline for a Celina football game that Friday, and everybody else is going to be scouting them out. But I'll pick Celina in this one too, which is why I wore my Celina orange. This dude's blind. I don't even know who am I talking to. Nobody's over there. All right.
Bobbleheads. The voices in your head behind you.
Exactly. Sunnyvale and Pleasant Grove. By the way, before we get into this game, you're a wrestling guy. Did you see that North Texas celebration? Yeah. When they score, they're doing the Austin deal. They're banging two cans of water and spilling it all over. So I thought you could look at that. That might be your new squad.
All right. You're about to spoil wrestling. I haven't watched WrestlePalooza yet, so I thought you were about to do that on me. Don't do that, Ward. Did you see last night when Brock hey, don't talk about it.
I don't know anything about that. I don't have any apps. Okay. Talk to me about Sunnyvale and Pleasant Grove. This one's at Sunnyvale.
This is a game that 3 weeks ago, I would have said I think Sunnyvale should win this game. But Sunnyvale has been just a step below where I thought they would be all year. Pleasant Grove has played that East Texas hard schedule, and they've been a step above what we were expecting this year. So regionally, I don't think this is an upset, but I feel like for DFW area fans who have been listening to us say Sunnyvale is number 2 and can take that next step and can battle Carthage this year, it's going to feel like an upset. So to me, it's going to feel like an upset, but I think Pleasant Grove, the way Sunnyvale has shown me through 3 weeks, they're not going to win this game. Now, if they kind of show me what I saw last year and what I saw coming into the offseason that made me so excited about Sunnyvale, I can see them winning this game. But Pleasant Grove has actually shown me what I've been expected to see out of Sunnyvale, and they look like they're ready, wanting to say, Carthage, we can, don't worry about that inside high school sport. Well, of course, we can see a Carthage Pleasant Grove game at the start. That's something that will get thrown out there every now and then. But man, Sunnyvale has got their hands full this week. Pleasant Grove, on paper, is looking better than them. Excellent. So give me Pleasant Grove.
I'll give you to him. And I'm going to take Sunnyvale, the local team. All right, Life Oak Cliff and Pottsboro. Oh, I got to hear your analysis on this because Life Oak Cliff is just killing the scoreboard. Tell me about how they're going to handle a team like Pottsboro and on the road.
It up. And I might consider taking this as an upset, but Pottsboro just beat Munster. Yeah. I mean, they just beat a state champion team. So Pottsboro, man, in Life Oak Cliff, they struggled the one game that they played against kind of a mid-tier team. They're kind of like DeSoto where they look great. When things are going well, when they're better, they look great. But when you got to fight in the trenches, they're playing with sophomores, Ward. I mean, a lot of their smoke and mirrors right now. If Demarion Mays was there, we would be really seeing the sophomore. It is a bunch of young kids. They're probably a year away from this game.
Is there something to say that they don't know any better?
They don't know any better.
They're younger. They don't know they're supposed to be scared of the situation.
But Pottsboro beating a state champion, that's the problem for me. So I think Pottsboro is going to win this game. But it's going to be if Life Oak Cliff can make this game competitive or not. That might determine if Life Oak Cliff can slide into a 4th playoff spot over Pilot Point or Whitesboro, or if they're going to struggle and maybe be at that 5th spot.
All right, well, this one's on the scoreboard. There has to be a reason because none of these teams have a win. Is that the reason? Somebody's got to get a win?
I told you, Ward, that I'm quitting the Friday night recap until one of my schools gets a win. So I think I'm going to be there on Friday because I'm taking Celeste, Big Blue, over Linden Kildare to finally get the first win for the Diggs family.
0-3 over 0-4. There you go. We're going to see you back. All right, you know what it's time to do, right? It's time to dig into some fantasy football.
I think we can just bypass this thing.
We don't have to because, listen, Last week you didn't show up points wise at all. I didn't have a running back. I still won. This time you showed up, but I showed out, and that's why we're even, Steven. Oh boy, is the Wizard coming on? Does he know something finally? I mean, he's ahead of him in the Gossick thing. Now all of a sudden I'm even Steven in fantasy football. I must be the
Coaches
man.
love you more than they love me. I see you just networking with everybody on the sidelines, just high-fiving, talking to Coach Rayburn, like, hey, when are we going to go have lunch again, and all this kind of stuff.
Again, just the time I have lunch will be the first time, or any meal for that matter. Coach, come on and invite me over for a snack.
I can't, I'm just going to kind of give a little bit of insight because we had to go get the stats. We had all my stats in. It was 760 to 615. So you needed 145 yards to win this game, and you had to go find the stats. And the very first thing I saw was Alger Miles had 146. And I was like, I just lost by 1 point. But then I kept reading, and he actually had rushing yards too.
He had 34 rushing yards. He had to do anything to come back.
Did you beat me by 1 yard? I was going to have to go break down that footage if it was 1 yard. But no, he took care of business in running the ball. But man, Alger Miles
came through. That's why he's getting a bobblehead this week on the show. You do me right, I'll get you a bobblehead. Actually, boy, that would be some messed up payola right there if I did that mess. But that was very competitive. It's a tough loss, and I would probably be upset if I lost like that because I did lose. Week 2, I lost like that because my man only played a half, Buck Randall. Now I can't even use him again.
We had 6 players show out this week. That's all you can say for it. And that's what my heart in wanting to do this segment was, is to highlight some great kids. All the kids showed out this week and did great. Thank you to all I'm sure your teams and communities love you. It was a pleasure to watch that because we got to go next level in our competition this week because of the amazing statewide performances. We picked the best in the state last week, and they showed why.
And we love all the Texas high school athletes, but here's the 6 that we love even more because this week quarterback for Dixie, Jaden Shaw from Lamar, and I'm picking Carson Garcia from Creekview. Talk to me about your guy, Jaden Shaw, because I saw the highlights last week. And this is how you do things, and where I always end up usually chasing you, is you got the guys that can run and pass.
Yeah. And if you can't beat them, join them. I mean, I've almost Undertakered Lamar. I kind of pulled back a little bit, and now they beat Martin. So if you can't beat them, join them. They have a favorable matchup this week. I think they're going to score a lot of points. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. And Lamar is getting better. You can see it every week. And in that district, you got to score and put up big points. So I like them.
And I feel Carson's kind of unsung for the level of play that he's playing in 5A Division One. There, he's got in my eyes, a favorable matchup with North Mesquite. Is he playing North Texas?
They want to do the bottle water.
Exactly. So I feel like that's a good one. And for running back, here we go again. I do this every week. I already told you. I see a guy one week, I pick him the next week. I saw Dalen Gordon and how hard he runs. Your Wiley guy will agree with this. One of the hardest runners out there. Can we count kick return yards? Because he got 90 yards. No. All right. Well,
you can't discount receiving yards because they're using him in that Gross H-back kind of a thing. He is in the area leaders as wide receiver and as running back. So that you're kind of doing my quarterback theory at running back. But what I'm thinking for my guy in Chance Cully is that Princeton has been really bad against the run, and they will feed him. Plano will feed him 30, 35 times in this game, and I think he'll take it. I could see 250 to 300 for Chance Cully, but unfortunately, if they can get Gordon out there in wide space, I could see him with 8 receptions. I know we're not a PPR league, but he can get it from both sides. So,
my problem is they're playing South Garland, and there's a good chance they may shut him down at halftime, and my other problem is you got Cully, who's coming off of a game where it seems like they were completely dominated on both sides of the ball. He's hungry to prove that Permian game wasn't no joke. Let me get back out there. So I'm a little nervous on the running back situation. Let's talk about the receiver situation, which I'm not as nervous. We all know Mansfield gives up yardage, and to get him back, I was waiting for my chance, and you'll be picking Zion at some point, I'm sure, and during the next 6 weeks while we got this going on, because they got to come back from these games that the defense is holding. I'm picking them this week because I wasn't as confident in Dalen Gordon playing the whole game. So I'm picking them. I even forgot who they're playing. I'll check it out while you talk about Julian Caldwell against Colleyville Heritage.
Yeah, and that's why I'm picking Argyle, because I feel like that game we already saw against a good defense, against an elite defense, the best defense in that district. We saw a 43-42 score out of Colleyville Heritage and Timberview. So I think Argyle we're looking at 80, 90 points. Caldwell seems to be their go-to guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't run the ball. I don't see him getting in there for any jet sweeps or anything. But man, he can make big plays down the field, and that's what I like about him. I think you got to target him quite a bit too, because it looks like the secondary might be what you have to go after against Colleyville Heritage, because their front seven is pretty good. So I feel like you got to try to take advantage of that, and I'm going to try to use Caldwell to take advantage of a shootout game.
Yeah, Julian's one of the top receivers in that junior class, so in the state. So let's see, Mansfield's playing. They're playing Boswell, so they have a chance to get some big. I mean, they just gave up 75, so let's see what they're going to probably get 75 against Mansfield's defense, and then we're going to get 76 out of Zion. So we'll see how it goes. We might have another big shootout game, and we'll see how it goes. But we'll bring you the results. And Wiz will be 3-2, Diggs will be 2-3. And boy, I'll be pulling out another orange shirt. I'll be eating oranges. Everything's going to be good. I ain't rooting for Syracuse, so don't ask me to root for Syracuse orange. I dislike them more than I dislike the Cowboys, who we both know stinks. I don't know why I took an unprovoked attack at the Cowboys, but I felt like the need to do it.
It's a rough year.
It is a rough year.
The Bears got a little bit of orange in them too. That little GHB, whatever they got there.
That is true.
Kind of that third alternative color.
That is true.
George Hallis, is that what that GHB is?
Yes, that's true. GHS. All right. That's it. Let's talk about week 6 next week. Good luck out there, and we will see you next week.